This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So today we are going to start with a game. This is my favorite game, I will say. I think that it makes people be more creative, think outside of the box. I love thinking of random things to throw at people. So here it is. So this game is called Market Me This. I'm going to give you something completely random and maybe difficult to market, and you are going to develop a little plan for me about what you do. Obviously, there's so many aspects of marketing. You can choose one, or you can choose like an overview of what you do to market this product. But that's basically it. I know you do digital marketing, so that's a different kind of vice, but maybe you can develop like a template for what you do.
Yes. No, that's one of my favorite games to play already. So let's go. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Here's your product. This is Bluetooth shoes with speakers.
All right, great. Well, I mean, first of all, I'd say it's an incredible product for kids that want to have fun on the go, and parents who want to keep them entertained in spaces where that's okay, and where if it's not at school, but maybe if they're out for the day with their friends running around, they could have different sounds pre-programmed. It's gotten a lot of incredible features you could really enjoy with your family, but it's also just great if you're out for a run, because who doesn't want to have some beats going when you're out for your morning jog? So I think there's a lot of benefits to these shoes. It really depends who you are. So check out our website, learn more, and find the right pair for yourself.
No, that was really good. What would you name them? Do you have a come up with a slapsticky name?
Blue shoes. I mean, come on.
Oh, cop out.
I mean, that was like a softball, So yeah, if ever you want to play that game again, let me know. It's a lot of fun to think about that was like most of my college experience in advertising, as an advertising major was going through and coming up with fictional campaigns for brands. So that's a lot of fun.
I love that. I think that's so fun. I do really like the past track record. Sometimes, I throw a little softball like you just did.
Well, for some that might not be easy, but that's just like my brain's wired that way. I'm an advertising guy, so
it's fun. No, I liked it. I've given some funnier, maybe more difficult challenges.
We can do a follow-up segment. Let me know. I'm always happy to try that one.
I think you definitely enjoy watching those as well. But thank you again for participating. I appreciate that was fun. And it was a good start. So I know you're creative, so that's a great thing to know at this point as well. But thank you again for joining me today. For all those that don't know, this is the Fully Managed Podcast. This is a podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Andrew Schuster from Further Insights. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you, Shannon. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. So let's talk about you. Tell me about you. Tell the audience about you. Anything that you think is relevant to share about your business journey and what you're doing now and what maybe you're looking for in the future.
No, absolutely. It's funny. I started a podcast recently for Further Insights, really focused on digital marketing for small business owners. I think what you're doing is great. It's such an important thing right now for, accessible information and helping small businesses get the tools they need to grow. And obviously there's tools and firms and people out there that can help assist. But, a lot of what I've been doing recently is AI implementation for our own process, let alone for our clients. So that's taken up a lot of, I'd say my focus in terms of running the agency has been how to really automate our systems and leverage these tools to get the best and most predictable outcomes for our clients. And to take a big step back, Further Insights, my digital marketing agency, is really a data-driven digital marketing firm. So, we've always been metrics oriented, results oriented, and started off with, Google search and email, and have evolved over the past, almost 10 years, into a much more diversified media and marketing company, that we have our own products and services and digital products as well, but we also do consulting for mostly small businesses in a variety of industries, bars, restaurants. We worked with industries from automotive to HVAC, but by and large, we've been really focused on helping small businesses learn how to do really world-class digital marketing. So that's what Further Insights is, but I can get into a lot of other offshoots of how we got there, what else I do, that kind of thing. But in terms of, why I'm on this show, I think, my experience running Further Insights has been a really an amazing one. I'm 38 years old, and have been doing this for 20 years. Most of my career, has been in digital marketing. So watching the evolution from pre-social media to now and what's happening with AI, it's just been a really fascinating journey. So that's a lot of where my head is these days, is around technology and AI.
I appreciate that insight. And it's really cool that you're kind of delving into something that is more new nowadays, especially because I think that for small to medium sized businesses, it's very difficult to kind of put their brains in that space. AI is something that I think that there are simple things that a lot of people can kind of adjust to and figure out themselves, but there's a lot of incorporations into systems that they normally use that they're very used to using that can be made easier, but they just don't know how to start. So it's really nice for you to be able to like delve into that and share that, because I think that, small businesses are kind of put at a disadvantage a lot of the time, especially if they're people that have had their business for a while. Maybe they're on the older side and they're not like very technologically savvy. It's very sad to see a business go under, not because the business is like doing well in the perspective of that they're providing a good service or product, but the idea that they just don't know how to adjust to the changing climate.
Well, I think it's always an afterthought, and that's my biggest issue with how people view marketing. And I'd say
Mhm.
my bigger issue with the industry. I mean, there's been a lot of just like snake oil salesmen out there for a long time selling results and, really vanity metrics,
Mhm.
likes over revenue. A long time ago, well before some of this more rapid technology shift has happened with AI, I mean, we were just helping small businesses get a handle on just how to do content, how to do
Mhm.
content properly, and then how to run ads at a basic level. Like, these are really advanced things for somebody who's a chef or who's, a mechanic or a lawyer, whatever their job is. If they're a small business, they don't have a marketing team, but it's probably the single most important thing any small business or any business needs to do. Really, any organization, you need to have a marketing plan. You need to have somebody that's focused on marketing excellence. And that's not somebody's cousin, the intern. You know what I mean? It's not some high school kid. Even I'm sure that's great and helpful, but it takes a real level of expertise to understand how to size up a market, how to create a compelling narrative and storyline and brand that's going to win in that market, and then how to measure success. So metrics and data have been really important to, I think, how we've sustained and really grown as an agency over time. Um, it's something that's an afterthought for most people, but with technology and where it is today, especially with like our bar and restaurant clients, it's really amazing. We can attribute our marketing performance to revenue, and then we know what's working. So the question isn't, do I like this? The subjectivity, the creativity, are really secondary in my view to the execution, and it just takes somebody to do it. So having agency partners and platform partners is great, but I think people really need to think about marketing, sooner than later. Pretty much one of the first hires they have should be a marketing partner, if not an agency that they work with. So I just think that's always the biggest challenge, and why when it helps so much is it's hard to do. I've been doing this for 20 years. There's so many great people out there like yourself that have expertise to share. And I think like this format and being able to share information with people, whether it be podcasts or books, the information's out there. It just, you can't do it all. And Jesus, marketers, we can't do it all. We can't every single platform, but there's ways to win. There's really ways to mitigate risk and win in digital marketing if done properly. So that's a lot of, not to nerd out too much, has a lot of what gets me excited. So
I truly do. Well, I appreciate the sentiment. I think it's a very unique perspective to for small businesses even to not think about marketing as the first step of their process. I think a lot of times they're like, worried about a lot of other things, which are probably warranted. But I think
The
that,
product's got to be good, right? That's always
of
like what can
course,
make this thing good. So you get that, yeah.
you can have, I mean, you can still have a great marketer that can market a bad product. I mean, like that maybe is questionable on their moral stance. But
True story.
everyone's got to make money. But I do think that, that I definitely agree with you that a lot of small businesses and even medium-sized businesses aren't necessarily thinking about marketing as the forefront of their thing, because especially if they're local, people will just assume people will find out about them, or like that word of mouth is good enough. And sometimes it is, but a lot of times it isn't. And if you're trying to grow, then that is definitely likely not the way to do it. You need a plan, and I definitely agree with that. It's also interesting what you said about um, that these kind of things like this podcast is a great way for people to learn. Like the information is out there. I think it's just hard for people to find sometimes. And that's something that I truly inherently believe as a person. I think knowledge should be free. I think that if knowledge was free, the world would be a better place. I think a lot of places the digital age is wonderful because to an extent it is now. But I think that even like research articles, things like that behind a paywall or whatever, that makes me upset. I don't understand. I understand the need to make money for the research in a way, but also things like this, I would love for there to be more out there. That's why I get very excited, like you having a podcast as well. I love having other podcasters on the podcast. One, because they know the ins and outs of it, and it's exciting to have that understanding, but also to know that people care and want to give their knowledge out there for free, and not just to like make money.
Totally. And I think there's a lot of what's, for me, what's worked in marketing, I'd say just business overall, just asking questions and being willing to be humble and, figure out where the gaps are, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses? And that's a lot of how we approach marketing. How I look at it is sizing up markets and seeing where we stand. So like a lot of people will just jump into, let's go market grand opening, but the market research and the planning it truly takes to get to a real thesis about what's going to work, and then having a couple of, different ways where you can take that depending on the success of your initial campaign. Like early and often marketing is key. And because digital is so accessible, right? The barrier to entry is so low. Everybody's got a phone, everybody's on social. That is the most incredible thing in the world. I went to school for journalism. I mean, this is like my worst nightmare, but in so many ways, TikTok and Shorts and YouTube and Instagram. I mean, it's incredible how many people you can reach as a small business. So I think pretty much every business should have a podcast or some form of regular vlogging. It's a great way to get reach and visibility. But if entrepreneurs started putting themselves out there well before their business is ever launched,
Yep.
and understood their market, I think that's more important than any product, right? Because the community is connected and it's authentic. Then you're going to be able to sell them anything that makes sense to them, but you'll know what they want. So we try to take the guesswork out of the creative, amazing big campaigns, which was how, when I came into the industry in 2009, I mean, it was still very much like build this really crazy website that may or may not work in the future, and billboards. And it was, the newspaper model, like you had to go big market. You had to have something big and bold and compelling, but there's so much stuff out there that you have to find a way to break through. And this is the way to do it, right? Having this kind of digital format is amazing, but there's so much extended learning from all of these podcasters. And that's why I get excited about kind of hearing more about, frankly, your journey and other podcasters' journeys about, why they're really doing this and what is like the intellectual reason they're doing it. Because it is more than just marketing ourselves. It's great that we can get out there and hopefully, reach new people, potential clients. But, this is my career. So I'm genuinely passionate about it. And I don't think marketing like law or like medical fields has gotten the respect or maybe the integrity that it deserves. And that's something I take really seriously now, kind of being in the middle part of my career now. It's important to practice what you preach. And for me, putting myself out there and podcasting and sharing this information, it's actually sharpened my skills a lot. So it's been helpful.
Yeah, I would definitely say I want to talk about something that you said earlier, but I'll comment on this first. I 100% agree with you that sharpening skills, this podcast has been me personally, I love learning. Like I would go to college forever and do every major if I could afford to do that, and I was some kind of nepo baby. I don't understand why more Nepo babies aren't doing that, but whatever. I would go to school forever. I love learning. And this podcast is such a gift because I get to learn every time I talk to someone. And it's so wonderful. There's no marketing is so vast and everyone has such a unique way of doing things. Of course, I hear things similarly a lot of the time. Of course, people do have similar ways of doing things, but it's the way that they spin it or explain it or how they do what they do that's uniquely them that I love to get into and I love learning about because there's just so many ways that people can explain something and it's new every time almost. And that's something that I am so thankful for. This getting to learn at such a rapid pace is so cool. For lack of better phrasing, it's great to learn people and network and whatever those reasons. But selfishly, knowledge is it's not just for our audience. Like I get knowledge every time I get to talk to someone on this podcast, and it's so unbelievably wonderful. It's like marketing school, but as it's going on, which is so many people have told me that they've gone to college for marketing, but it's basically obsolete by the time they graduate because it's such a rapidly changing environment. So this like having a podcast keeps you sharp. I recommend everyone do it. I don't care that we have competitors. I think it's awesome. I think that knowledge should be free. And the more people out there that are doing it, the more we network, the more we get to know people, the more we see transparency in our field, which I think is something that was kind of lacking in the beginning. I agree with your sentiment on snake oil salesmen, kind of people in the agency space. I think that people knowing more about the agency space, they will also be able to have that foresight to vet agencies better, knowing that they will smite them. Because that does happen. I hear from so many agencies, people coming to them having been burned by other agencies on this podcast. And clearly the amount of people that I've talked to, maybe some of them have been those people that have burned people and I would not know because obviously people prefer to share the good things. But it is it's such a great space to learn. But I do want to comment. I know I just went on a crazy rant.
No, I'm taking little notes in my mind here. So I will come back to some of those points. Great points. And thank you for getting that out.
I appreciate that, but I also want to get back to what you said about kind of setting this foundation of digital marketing before a business even gets out there, like its grand opening or whatever it may be. I 100% support that because I think people love a story and knowing like the foundation of how you got to a point is something that I think people really resonate with. Like you can have like a great restaurant or a great product or a great storefront or whatever it may be, and people might just gravitate to that. But sometimes having that like how I got here is what really brings people in. And I think that having those foundations, even if it's not how I got here, but how we created this or like how did we think of these things? Like, where do we get our knowledge from or whatever? I think that is something that people gravitate towards as well because they just want to relate to things.
No, that's so true. And I think it's so funny for so long, people were trying to fake it until you become it. Like
Yeah.
this was, I think there was a TED Talk.
I hate
First,
that.
I know. And like, look, you got to put yourself out there and try things and be willing to make mistakes. But if you pretend to be something you're not, and then people come to your place of business and they get a completely different experience than what they've been promised, a fire festival, right? Like,
Yep.
it's not gonna end well, and you're not gonna have repeat customers. So much of our culture, and not to get too, culturally and socially kind of out there, but that's a lot of how I view marketing is just about people and trends and cultures and how markets actually work in a real way. And for so long, I think people were just trying to present themselves as successful and hoping that would get other people to trust them. Social media has blown the doors off of that. I mean, you cannot really fake it. Like some of the most successful campaigns out there right now are people just filming whatever's happening at that place on a regular basis and building relationships with the staff and the people. And then not only does the local community and the local customer have a better, connection to that business, but then people start to come to that place to go see this pizza or watch or whatever it might be. I mean, a smartphone is really all you need. But for so long, people, I think, tried to overcomplicate it. They thought marketing had to be this corporate thing, but now the corporates have even come around. Like, it's just got to be, you've got to share and document your story. I mean, transparency is important. There's some things that should not be shared from a company that are, more internal. But by and large, I think, getting your whole team involved in social media is more important than anything right now. But of course, you need SEO. You need to be, on all the maps. You need to be visible and findable and easy for folks to find. So there's so many ways to do that in your market planning and like in your pre-launch. But it's just making a dedication to marketing. I think that's the main kind of change that's allowed, the influencers in some cases to rise to unbelievable heights that people would have laughed at 20 years ago, or even like cryptocurrency. It's like everybody wants to the traditional folks say that's not possible, but now look at what's happening. We're seeing a major shift in democratization of marketing. It used to be very, like I came from the newspaper world. It used to be very limited, right? Whoever had the money got the visibility. But now it's like whoever has a captive audience that loves them, that appreciates them, that has a relationship with this brand, whether it be a restaurant or a hospital, frankly. I mean, it does, it's amazing now that anybody can do that. And it just takes the practice of doing it. It shouldn't be an afterthought. People are like, oh, I got to do social media now. No, it should be something that you do well before your restaurant even opens. And like, I'd say even going back before even go to social media, like I come from also like a market research background where we looked at surveys and focus groups. Like you can do that until forever. And you can, just have this bias of what might work, but get enough empirical data, look at what already works in the market before you even go to market. Like there's so many technical ways to win before you even start communicating with your audience that you're ready to start a business. But yeah, I love the game you presented at the beginning because it's like such a fun exercise and something I really enjoy. But for us, it comes down to really like, what does the market look like locally? Who are your competitors and where do we fit in? How do we present ourselves in the right way to get the most amount of customers, the most cost effectively as well?
Yeah, and you can I think you can see this in real time, even if you're not like regularly indulged in the marketing space, because I can even give an example of on my own street. There are 2 restaurants that came out in the last 2 months. One opened and had a line around the block. And I remember seeing the ads for it before it came out. I remember seeing marketing actively. Like I remember seeing ads for it constantly in my face, on my Instagram, whatever it may be, having no idea anything about this business beforehand. And then another business block away has had balloons, grand opening sign in front for however long. I never see anyone there.
What are the types of cuisine?
One is Asian cuisine and the other one is hot chicken, so I guess Southern cuisine. And I thought this was very interesting because I'm like, one is more diverse, like the Asian cuisine has a lot more options, whereas the hot chicken place is like three things on the menu basically, like this, and it's just different versions of the same thing. So it's very interesting.
So you talk about market size. I mean, the chicken place is limited to just that. So maybe, their need of volume isn't quite the same. So maybe they don't have to market in the same way, but maybe they're just not thinking about marketing. And there's like, we sell chicken, which is most great small businesses that fail. Most businesses that fail just rely on their product and they think it's great and people will find it. Or artists, or, I do a lot of the work in the music industry as well. People will think that people should find them. And it's not, you've got to put yourself out there and connect with them. And maybe that's what the chicken place really missed. And it sounds like the Asian spot really, really nailed. So,
well, actually, sorry, I think that you might have misheard me, but it was the opposite. So was the one that actually did so well, and I saw the marketing for actively before it came out.
So
had nothing.
So you flip that. So okay, chicken sandwiches are hot. I'm not sure, where do you live? What city?
I live in Philadelphia.
Okay, so you're in Philly. You're in a city. I'm in Baltimore. So when something pops up that's cool and great, you get that immediate rush. And if they do social media right, they're young. They know that game. That's going to work. Where maybe the Asian spot is not even remotely close to trying to do anything innovative or new. There's like, hey, we got carry out, whatever. So it can totally be flipped. It's not just about the numbers. It's like a lot about intent. The question's going to be a year from now. The question's
Yeah.
going to be 2 years from now. Where are those businesses, and did their initial campaigns sustain enough to, or did they have to keep going on and on? And it's interesting because they're not directly competing, but you get to see firsthand, like, this is just, if I'm going to get a bite to eat, I could go to either place. Where am I going to go and why? And then, it's interesting to kind of see how that evolves.
It is so unbelievably interesting to see it in real time because I do, and I have to assume that it's a testament to the lack thereof, like the marketing not being incorporated, because obviously I did not see the Asian place down the street be marketed on my social media. I didn't see anything about it, and I have to assume that that's part of the reason why I don't see many people in there. But I also think that maybe the chicken place didn't have a sustainable marketing plan, because there was a line out the door the first day, but now I see significantly less people in there. Sometimes it's completely empty. And I think that it's so interesting to be in the marketing space and see what's going on in your own community and see like the problems that maybe might be occurring because of that. And I do agree that I feel like you can have a more sustained audience or customer base or whatever you want to call it if they have some kind of attachment to you. Whereas like having that foundation of a digital marketing footprint, so to speak, I think that might give you that push for longevity because people, relate to you. And like both of these restaurants I've been to and both of the staff are very, very kind. And I think that a lot of just seeing that in the social media space is enough for people to want to go somewhere, like knowing that they're just going to get good service and not necessarily even surrounding the food.
But like PR is such a valuable play, and that's the problem with it too, is right. Like, let's say they got the Eater article or whatever, they got some good press for their first launch. It's a buzzworthy new sandwich. When another place opens down the street, maybe that crowd just goes there because people just like to wait in lines for some reason. I'm not one of those people. I don't care.
I go to the grand opening.
I don't care what it is. I'm not waiting in line. New York's the worst. I just see people waiting. I'm like, what is this for? Like, I'm not really sure. So that's a problem. But I think there is benefit in those initial bursts, but a business can't keep sustaining that. And I call them for us, we have a practice we call the 3 Ps. I say it would be something I developed from my college days, but basically, my marketing practice is planning, production, and performance. And so I look at it I call it an ongoing practice marketing, because it really is. And you keep coming back to these 3 things, and there's unique things and different, depending on where you are in the life cycle, different ways to use that. But if that business knew they were going to get a burst of traffic and they had a way to convert those people into customers, that's your more advanced level of marketing, right? Getting people in the door is not easy to do, but it's not nearly as difficult as keeping them there. And that if either one of those restaurants doesn't have Toast, we're Toast partners, so HP buys there. They don't have Toast or some kind of or Square or some kind of CRM that connects their data, point of sale system that connects their customer data. They're missing out on the most valuable asset, which is their customers being their marketing engine, right? So we want to, initially you'll see ad budgets that are through the roof for customer acquisition, but if you can actually retain those customers and understand what the life cycle value is tied to their revenue, start sending them personalized offers. You love this happy birthday for your favorite sandwich. That's the holy grail. And that's why you're seeing a lot of, small concepts becoming huge concepts, the Sweet Greens of the world. Like, that level of personalization is huge for people. So you can make a chicken sandwich a million different ways. If that place is smart, they're going to have a whole email list or a bunch of people that they had at the beginning that they know are going to keep coming back and growing with them over time. So I'm just fascinated by a lot of the connections between these data points and how point of sale data in particular and social media and marketing data in general will work together, because you can start to really balance out your budget from our client's perspective. We call ourselves an agency, but I'm a consultant. And ultimately, we come in to help them find areas of opportunity, areas of growth. And yes, they could do some of these things on the road, but a lot of it just takes very much like a lawyer would have legal training, years of training and experience to size up a situation, to give a prognosis, say, here's what's going on. Here's what we have to do. So that's a lot of what we're trying to bring to the table from our perspective. And it's just something that, unless you're, paying a firm or me personally, or you have somebody who's really good at marketing that's willing to help you, as a small business owner, it's really, really difficult to go from, hey, grand opening is great. Let's hire this PR firm. Okay, we're done. What's next? If you don't do these things in advance, the planning part of my process, if you don't plan properly, you won't get the right outcomes. However, if you wait too long and you just overplan, you will not succeed, and you will wait too long in the mark. So like, I've seen so many cycles, and it's so interesting what's happening right now with just interest rates and them coming down with this market crash. And like, if you've been through enough of these things, you start to see the predictability. Like, there's just corrections that happen along the way. And in marketing, a lot of what we just look for is just lowering the cost of user acquisition over time. But that only happens once we get that retention. So hopefully the chicken place, if they've done this right, they've got the retention, but we'll see. I'm curious to see how that pans out.
No, I know. I don't know if it's panning out well for them. And I think I agree with everything that you said about how I think that there's a lot of marketing plans that people may actually do, but it's not for longevity. Whereas like there are all these touch points that you need to account for. And I think that for the chicken place, for example, I think did not do this. I think that a lot of people, may market their grand opening, and that's great. And maybe they are putting efforts towards that, like legitimate efforts into doing that and marketing for their grand opening. And they think that just having enough people in the door that first day and having a good product is enough marketing for them
Well,
to do.
I'll give you an anecdotal example. My favorite pit beef place in Baltimore. For Baltimore people, pit beef. For Philly people, if you haven't tried it, it's like our cheesesteak. It's a unique
Okay.
Baltimore thing.
I
But
was gonna say I've never heard of that, but
it's just like medium rare, like, like char grilled beef. It's delicious. But we put like tiger sauce on it, barbecue, and it's like mayo and horseradish. It's absolutely delicious. But the best one, in my opinion, it's a tie right now between the folks we're talking about and Jake's Grill. Jake's is awesome too. But Pioneer Pit Beef is a shack on the side of the road off of like Security Boulevard, which is nowhere close to downtown or the county or where, most people that I know live, but it's a line out the door constantly, cash only, have never marketed. I asked if we could do a free video for them a long time ago. We were running a magazine and they were like, we don't want any more people. They are packed.
I love that.
It's unbelievable. And they're there 5 a.m. every day. It's a family-run business. It's incredible what they've done, and I'm sure there's ways they could grow, but like it's enough for them. And I actually went to Japan for my honeymoon and saw a lot of this in their culture there too. It was really eye-opening, but like the pride in the work, the pride of the excellence of making a great product actually does transcend having to overly market it, because then your people, your customers become your marketing. They tell people how good it is. That word of mouth becomes really important, and it can actually become the entire marketing plan if the product is that good and that scarce, and I think that's what's to the chicken place. Maybe we'll take this. I don't know, but it sounds like they've already got.
You speak great chicken, but if it's not a unique, I think it's also, if it's not a unique product, it might not have that longevity. Like you might have a great product, but if there's others around that are doing the same thing or something very similar, that's when I think you need marketing for longevity. Like I do 100% agree that there are products that transcend marketing. Like your plan can just be, this is a great product. People love it. People talk about it. And that's all you need. And especially for a small business that has an extent of what they can handle, I think that that's somewhat perfect for them. But I think that there's, this chicken place is a chain, only a chain in Philadelphia. I think it's like maybe the third one. But I know that the other ones are doing better. And I'm like, why?
Well, it's all good as long as it holds up. I mean, so I've actually gotten into real estate investing the last few years, and it's been interesting to compare my marketing experience to that. But like, I look for predictability. So with marketing, I think that approach is really important. And if it's 100% predictable that you're going to sell out, you got a great barbecue. I lived in Austin too for a little bit. Like, there's so many barbecue places, but some had that market and some didn't. But like, if it was well known by the enthusiasts of that this is the place to go, people almost prefer that it's not marketed. They like that it's their place. And if a business can sustain on that forever, that's great. But things do happen. Market conditions change. And if that dries up and you don't have any marketing whatsoever, or COVID happens, or God forbid another pandemic occurs and you're not prepared for carryout, I mean, what do you do, right? So a lot of those businesses, if they've been there for a really long time, traditional businesses, they found a way to sustain it. But like, the next generation at some point is going to have to get involved, and to keep new customers coming in, you've got to market. So it doesn't have to be like blasting people on social media, like crispy pizza style or whatever I was referring to earlier. But, just basic things on social, I think, are actually more important than any other digital marketing platform right now. But you can't take away from the value of just like simple blog posts and SEO and, just getting yourself on listings. Like that's, for bars and restaurants in particular, like that's such an obvious place to start. But you don't need to be everywhere. And I think that's where people get confused. I think I just like jump into marketing. But I think just by putting yourself out there and sharing what you're doing on a somewhat regular basis, whether you're a pit beef, chicken, or robotics company. Seriously, I think that's just what people are really missing. And we're actually in the process of writing a book right now to help small businesses, like chapter by chapter, step by step, how to do this themselves, kind of implement a marketing plan in the digital era, in the social media era. But the basis of it all is just go out and start testing your theories and seeing how people respond, and then adjust accordingly. But there's no need to go spend $1 million on a website. I mean, the simplest stuff. The product is really good. Then usually just basically being the thing that is searched on Google when somebody pops up, or the first thing that pops up on Google when somebody searches pit beef near me. If you're number one every time, whether it's from reviews or other, you're going to get a lot of traffic, but you're probably missing out on a whole bunch of other people that aren't searching on Google, especially people under 30 years old. So I don't know many of those people these days, but there's a whole universe of people that are not using Google whatsoever and are relying on social. So, the landscape is changing, but I do think good products at the end of the day, no matter what. If they had that core audience, will get shared. But again, so many small businesses have gone out of business because their product wasn't competitive enough, and marketing could have probably helped a lot of those folks. Because to your point, there are ways to make something that's not great marketable, but I think as marketing to the integrity part, if we can help them see the opportunity to improve their product or the quality of their product based on the market research, that's an exciting thing. I've had a couple of clients who've had that, like, I literally, convince them just through the data we found to not pursue an endeavor and save them years of their lives because they would have never been able to compete. It was just too expensive in our market. So it's helped, it's helped change some of my friends' lives. And I appreciate that the work we do on the data-driven side can help that, but it's so funny now. It's just basically just like get on social and keep on social.
I think it's also important. You definitely touched on this about the idea that I think small businesses specifically need to kind of know what they want from marketing and not just solely rely on getting more volume. Like, obviously, if more volume is what they need, then that's very important. But there's also, especially a small business that can only handle so much volume, no matter what they do. They need to understand their audience, what they want from their audience, because if you get a certain amount of volume and you finally achieve that, you might not have your regulars anymore. You might not enjoy what you do anymore. And I know that sounds like,
you're right. You're right. And that's really hesitant sometimes, like, share too much with clients because I don't want to be liable as the marketing person for all of their operational choices. But like in those cases, the data does tell the business what to do, what products to have, what specials to have. And that's where it's like, you need to have that trust with the client where you can have that conversation. It just gets lost a lot of times. And it's like, why didn't this work? Whose fault is it? Or hire a marketing agency. It's too late at that point. If we don't have that buy-in from the client, it can't work, right? We have to have something that we know they're confident with. We know they believe in, that it speaks their language. There's a lot of great ways you can do that, in onboarding a client. But ultimately, like, if they're not defined as a brand, we can't really do much more than share what it is.
exactly, yeah. And I think that goes back to what you said about, like, you don't have to do this everywhere. Like, you don't have to do this on every social media platform. You don't have to do everything possible. You don't have to launch this gigantic campaign in order to be successful. You just kind of have to know what's best for you. Like, it might not make sense to market on TikTok because maybe you don't want a bunch of people under 20 going to your restaurant, or maybe that's not what you're looking for. And maybe that's not the best place to market. And I think that people do want volume, and a lot of marketing is for that reason, like just bringing in clients in general. But I think that they have to know what's also going to make their clients the most happy. Like, if they have regulars that are locals and they're happy with what that place is and they enjoy having locals in, then maybe let's market with flyers. Like, let's market with like people locally. Let's do a marketing campaign that involves that specifically, and not just, oh, let's let's put something out on social media to reach every possible person. And then we have this influx of people that don't understand like the culture of the area or something like that. And that becomes problematic in the way of like they liked interacting with their regulars and they like doing this and they have new expectations of them, of reorienting their menu or their products or whatever it may be, or their service for these new people. And that's not always what you want. Like, you don't want people to be dissatisfied solely because they're not the type of people that should be coming to your business.
No, you hit on such an important point. I'm actually involved here in Baltimore and helping to improve the business community along the corridor I live in here on York Road. And, there's been so much turnover and in many cities, and I feel a lot of it is that just a misalignment. It's a product market fit is, your technical term, but like, if a business goes to a community and never spoke to a community member and just says, here's what it's going to be.
Yep.
It probably isn't going to work unless it's something that's a real critical need, a grocery store down the line. But even then, like the amount of community buy-in that's needed to get the right outcome is so much about marketing. In fact, it's so much more about like community outreach and community development. That's the responsibility of a business, and the responsibility of a good marketer is to present that early and often. But I think that the economic climate has gotten such in the last couple of years that it's very difficult to start a brick and mortar business. Very easy to start a digital business, of course, but brick and mortars become very difficult to do, and we need more of that. And I think we need great entrepreneurs that have the space to take leaps. So we're hoping to do that in Baltimore. I know Philly's got some great examples. I lived in Austin for a few years, like I mentioned. There's a lot of great creative spaces where people can, incubators, accelerators. There's actually one down the street from us called the Be More Kitchen, and it's a food CPG and food accelerator to help people build like packaged goods and food brands. It's really amazing. And they sell them at farmers markets, but also distribute all over the country. Hexperiments is another great example on their corridor. So you can't please everyone, but I think if you don't ask questions of the community early and you don't build a really good rapport with the community early, you can't really effectively market or, be a true, a sustainable business, because it's just not, it missed the mark. And, there's so many Dollar Trees and dollar stores on our corridors. It's not necessarily what people want, but they're going to keep their market share. They're not going to move. If Verizon building on our corridor with one person that works in there, it's just such a waste of excess space. But, that becomes a lot more difficult with the capital needed to change those spaces. So, but we are, we've seen one location in particular turn over 3 different businesses. It was a brewery, which was cool for some people that did not live in the community, but it wasn't in line with what the community's needs really were.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple other concepts that have come and gone. And now I think there's a vegan barbecue restaurant I heard coming in. So like, we'll see how that does. But it's such a feat to just start. In particular, we're talking about restaurants. We work with a lot of bars and restaurants, so we'll stay there. But it's amazing to think about the opportunity that a chef would have. I've got a great meal. I've got a great item. I think I can build something on this. I got a menu. I want to start a restaurant. That is such a feat. And my cousins have started a restaurant, and it's an amazing feat and a grind, but that is not nearly enough to win because it's such a competitive market and there's so much to consider operationally. So from a marketing perspective, like keeping it simple is really important. But like if people want a diner and you're not a diner and you only have one thing, it's a chicken sandwich, and nobody wants it, that's a problem. But, it sounds like they kind of knew their market to a certain extent, and they're a great franchise. But I do see a lot of businesses that will come and go within under a year because they simply did not even consider what the local community wanted and just wanted to make as much money as fast as possible. That's always a losing formula. But, it's why I see like so many tobacco shops in cities and things like that. I learned a lot about this just by work with the Business Improvement District. But they come and they go, and it's just a reality of it. But that's where digital is really incredible. That restaurateur or that chef could start just before opening a brick and mortar, doing pop-ups, doing private events, doing whatever you can to build that community before you're ready to open. And then when your restaurant's ready to open, you're going to have the money in the bank. You're going to have your audience pre-built, and then your opening is going to go smoothly, and you really won't have to market too much because your audience is already there. I mean, not market too much. I mean, you won't have to like convince people to come there. It will be a lot more like, hey, check out this special next week. So
Yeah.
People can make their lives a lot easier. And I hope, frankly, the work that we do at Further Insights, and it sounds like you guys are doing at Penji, can help small business owners either starting out or aspiring or in the midst of doing it, embrace marketing in a real way before it's too late. So
I think that was a beautiful note to end on because we're tied. But I do think that was a great note to end on because I think that's a very like sound piece of advice that a lot of businesses don't really consider. Community is so unbelievably important, and I think that it's not considered because you can have a wonderful product, wonderful service, but it's not for the people, it's not for the community that you're setting yourself down in, and it just doesn't make sense. And I think that a lot of people believe in their product or service so much that they don't account for that, and it's at a detriment to them because it's like, this could succeed in just a different place, and it's so sad to see when that happens, like such a good thing go under solely because that wasn't accounted for.
And all they had to do was hire a good marketer in advance, or at least learn the basic skills to win at a basic level in marketing. It's just an afterthought for a lot of these particularly creative folks, but it's a feat to accomplish something. And I don't want to take away from that at all. To get to that point, even if a business fails, for somebody to build something they're proud of and create a business, that's incredible. But hopefully, we can be helpful to those folks and making sure they're successful. So,
Ooh, sorry, I had to sneeze.
Yeah,
I definitely agree, and I appreciate how much you care about small businesses specifically. I think that there's a lot of people. I know we mentioned the snake oil salesman, but there's a lot of people that are out there that are saying that this is something that they want to do, but clearly you care a lot, and I appreciate that your agreement with me about how sharing knowledge is really important.
No, it's critical. It's critical, and it's been awesome getting to know you. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope that you got a lot of advice from this and a lot of things that are helpful in, creating your business and whatever your endeavors may be. Thank you so much, and have a lovely day, everyone.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.